officially into the second round, the semifinals in the NBA playoffs. As of last episode, we had, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but we had two series in the first round that weren't over. Nuggets and Clippers, Rockets and Warriors. We now have the end of that. I would say probably a little bit of disappointment on the Rockets end, being the number 2 seed, getting eliminated by the Warriors a little bit. And I know the Clippers would probably also say they feel like, getting Denver to 7 felt like you should get it. But I would also say, I think at the end of the day, everyone knows what the Nuggets are and Jokic is. And so that could be also part of that conversation, which we will do at the beginning of this episode, kind of do our Doom Meter revised. From last episode, we did a Doom Meter on the teams that were eliminated and talking about who's the highest. And spoiler alert for me, I don't necessarily feel like either of these two teams are too high on the Doom Meter compared to the other teams that we talked about last episode. A very abbreviated thought. I'll give it in a second, but we will also, after the intro break, we will get into Thunder Nugs, Timberwolves Warriors, which now has the Steph injury a little bit, so we got to talk about that. Cavs Pacers, and boy were we wrong, Knicks Celtics. So let's get into that. The Villanova having a hell of a run. Just putting that out there. Hell of a few years.
Villanova have got 2 natties and a Pope now. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, Annie Agar had the tweet, though, because the Pope's from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I love that they found footage of him actually at the 2005 World Series where the White Sox won. They got footage of him in the crowd at Game 1, which is unbelievable.
Like, how's that even a thing? Yeah, like,
they said Chicago produced a Pope before Chicago produced a 4,000-yard passer.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's crazy, but it is true.
From everything I've heard, because my wife got like super into the Pope talk, which we don't have to get into it, but I thought was like, I just never knew the process, so it was very like the whole process was so surprising and wild to me. It was very reality TV feeling at times, and I know people won't like me saying that, but either way, we from what I heard is this Pope was not very much considered to be close to the top options in people that would get it. So
yeah, I mean, it seems like it was quick. I mean, the conclave was quick. It was like what? It felt like it was 48 hours basically, and they had the decision made. I don't know. I mean, Pope, listen, I've been reading. He sounds like a pretty good guy. I'm not going to lie. Like, I liked Pope Francis a lot. So far, my initial read on Leo is pretty good, so I'm happy about that.
The funny thing that I thought, Nicole's coworkers were telling me this. I guess the betting favorites were 2 days, and so they were, Vegas knows.
Of course, Vegas knows, and of course, there's some sicko out there who made thousands of dollars betting on the conclave, and I just want to bring them on the podcast and be like, "What is going on right now? Like, talk to me. Like, what? How did you get here?"
I did not make a lot of money. I bet on day 3, so.
Okay. All right. Oh, you bet the day. Okay. I thought you were betting candidates for a sec. I was
think about that.
Who's writing these previews?
you parlay day and candidate, and you hit that, especially with.
Dude. Oh my God. Are we parlaying the Pope now? We can't even single bet.
You can parlay everything, man.
No, I know you can parlay. That's how the gambling companies make their money low key. They make it off the parlays. You make a lot of money, but most of the time you don't win. The way you make money in gambling is you bet single events straight up, but people don't realize it's a slower building.
Yeah, you nickel and dime your way up. You don't go for the big Hail Mary throw.
Yeah, you just don't get the $20 bet that turns into like $5,000 or something.
Which is like happens once in a lifetime kind of bet. And so no. But either way, let's talk Doom Meter.
Yeah, the Doom Meter.
on Nuggets, Clippers, Warriors, Rockets. Obviously the losers, the ones we talked about. The other two are still going as of right now. Clippers, I would say, are less. I would actually say Clippers are a little higher on the Doom Meter, in my opinion, based off age.
Mm-hmm.
Rockets, I don't have high up there because we've kind of joked about it, but I do feel like they would be a top candidate to potentially land that next star, whether it's, if Giannis is available, if KD's out there, if there's someone else. Like, They seem like a team that now has the experience. They took the Golden State Warriors to 7 games, although the Warriors probably should say we took them to 7 games since they were the higher seed. But they didn't have the experience in the playoffs, so you kind of expected it a little bit or thought that could potentially happen. So, and kind of similar situation with the Pistons. Like, I view the Rockets and Pistons in similar situations and maybe even equal on the doom meter because they now got the experience. They could potentially go land a star or run it back, and I think both would have good arguments to do that.
Yeah, the Rockets are dead last on the doom meter for me for basically everything you just said in terms of the flexibility. Yeah. Like, their floor is that you run the same squad back and you were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference this year with more experience. Like, you mentioned your core guys like Jalen Green, like Parker, like, Şengün, who I mean, Şengün was great. I don't think he's a guy who really needed more seasoning after the way he played that series. But yeah, you're right. Like, they have that in the bank now. Like, they're going to know what to expect going into the playoffs next year. Like, I think there's value in that. I think there's value in the way that they bounced back. I mean, look, this series was 3-1 at one point. Like, when they won that game without Jimmy in game 3, it kind of felt like this could get out of hand quickly. And I give the Rockets a lot of credit for battling back and forcing that game 7. Like, I know there's no, solace in defeat necessarily, but, for Houston, again, I think that showed a little bit about their character. I think they were already starting to learn some of those lessons. And like you said, more importantly, they're in prime position to take a swing at somebody. Like, whether it's Kevin Durant is the one that everybody's been flagging, honestly. But on the doom meter last week as well, we talked extensively about Giannis. And like, look, if Giannis becomes available, that's the even bigger fish potentially out there. You as Houston look around and you say, hey, we're loaded with young players, with picks, with things that would be attractive to a squad that's giving away a superstar like that. Whether Phoenix wants to restock their war chest, whether Milwaukee is starting over, like, whatever it may be, you're right. Like, because of that optionality, like, the only reason there's even a tick for me is, like you said, because they're the 2 seed and that they lost to a 7. I also would argue that this Warriors team was not your typical 7, especially post Jimmy Butler trade. Like, they were one of the better teams in the NBA. Like, I think if the Warriors had Jimmy the entire season, we're probably looking at a little bit different seeding for them as well. But
out of curiosity, and this is kind of just like a side comment, just because I know and maybe it's we can wait until we're on the Warriors topic. How do you feel about this whole Draymond comments about they're trying to make him look like an angry black man now because everyone's commenting about how he gets away with technical fouls and blah, blah, blah?
I think I tread lightly because that is a narrative that obviously I'm not equipped to speak about in terms of the angry black man. It's been justified for a lot of bad things in the past, like obviously off the basketball court.
Right.
However, in the case of Draymond Green, look, it kind of rings a little hollow when, dude, nobody's calling you an angry black man. There's black dudes all over the NBA who aren't doing the things that you do. Like, you do push the line with technical fouls, with flagrant fouls, with bending the rules, with, I so adequately, for lack of a better term, like, he's the ultimate shithouser. Like, we saw it. I think back to that finals game a few years ago, like game 2, where he basically just spent the entire game against Boston acting like an offensive lineman. And like, again, it's always a balance because Draymond Green is one of the most brilliant defensive players of our generation. And he's a guy who's been a key part of 4 championships. Like, he's an undoubted winner. But I don't really feel like that narrative is like, Dre, you earned that rep. Like, that's not a rep that just came out of no. Like, we were talking about him kicking Steven Adams in the nuts back in 2016. Like, it's been almost 10 more years
of this
since
still
this is going on. Like, he's still arguing. He's still getting into it with Houston. He's still getting into it with Gobert. There's a lot of beef out there, and it's not exactly just Draymond being angry. Like, at some point, that rep is earned here a little bit. And so I don't think he gets to use that narrative to kind of get out of it, because there are other players who we're not using that narrative for. It's like it kind of, I don't know. Like, again, it's weird. I don't want to get too into it as a white guy, but I don't feel like that's the excuse here, Draymond.
Well, and you look at other players that are starting to get that. Like, I feel like Edwards is getting a little bit of the technical foul rep, because we were talking about it. He got suspended for one of the last games of the season because he got his 16th or 17th technical foul.
Ant's arguing at people when he's chirping. Like, there's a difference. Like, Draymond is like doing physical acts too. Like, I don't think Ant's doing that. Like, Luka chirks at the reps too all the time, but like it doesn't feel like Luka's gonna clock somebody on a fast break.
Right. Draymond might actually clothesline you while you try to do a layup or something.
I mean, it was that pick with him, right? Like him blowing up that pick extra aggressively against Houston. Yeah. It's just like, again, it's Dre. And it's like when he figures out that, a flagrant foul isn't going to be a technical foul, so you can stay in the game longer. It's like, they don't need to tell him that. Like,
yeah.
No, I don't think that can be the excuse here, though.
Okay.
Going back to the Doom meter, I definitely have the Clippers higher than the Rockets. I don't have the Clippers up near like look, no one's near the Bucks right now, frankly. The Bucks have the Doom meter on lock for these playoffs. But I think the Clippers are higher a little bit. Like they may be. Honestly, you could tell me the Grizz are probably number 2 overall on the Doom meter for me, a little behind the Bucks. The Clippers, I think, are 3, and it's just because of injuries and age, like you said. Like you look at this core, and you look at again, everybody's a bit older here. Like Norm Powell is older, Harden is older, Kawhi is older, like Zubac is a little older now. Like he's on the younger side of older. I'm probably being a little generous there, but like, Bogdanovich and Batum and like all their role guys are like nearing the end of their careers. I think the other thing with the Clippers is you go, hey, Kawhi Leonard hasn't really been healthy. We had healthy Kawhi Leonard here. Like he was the destructive, arguably best player in the league that we could have hoped for. And, it's just unfortunate. You got a really tough matchup in Denver who we'll talk Denver a little bit, but like, whoa, Denver all of a sudden, like it was firing Mike Malone the right decision after all. But no, I think with the age and you factor in the health, it's like, look, you just haven't had these opportunities recently. And so, I think you take a little solace and, we went 7 with Denver. It was a really hard fought series. But I also think Denver pretty much controlled that game 7. And so I think they have to be happy about the way they closed it out on their floor. I also just think the biggest hit on the Doom meter for this, and maybe if you want to do him separately than the entire team, is James Harden. James Harden, the Doom meter is a lot higher because, look, this is just another elimination game stinker. Like, there's no way around it. It's like, look, we've changed the franchise multiple times. We've changed the jersey, and it's just always been the same result. Like, and it's crazy because, again, it's always James had 13 assists in that game 7. So the part of me goes, yeah, well, he was getting his teammates involved. He had 7 points. He was really inefficient from the field.
Yeah.
And it was, shout to Josh Eberle. Josh put together a big thread of that really, really breaks it down. Like, not just from here, but, the past few years of Philly and the time in Houston and, even a little bit in Brooklyn, which injuries there. Brooklyn would be the one where I'd be like, I don't really blame him for Brooklyn.
Don't hold him on
that. He wasn't
healthy.
But the point is, it is like, it's just, James Harden is unquestionably one of the most talented players we've ever seen. He's one of the best regular season players of all time. Like, he's a multiple time MVP. Like, you do have to give it up. But that, we talk about the narrative with Dre being well earned. This is kind of earned at this point. Like, this is another elimination game where James just vanished. Like, he was nowhere to be found. And it's remarkable because you think he has a game. Like, it's not just the 3-point shooting and getting the teammates involved. Like, it's the floater. It's, he just, something phases him in the moment. Like, it's at some point you just got to admit it's real. And I think that's what it's been for Harden this go around. And like, look, it doesn't have maybe the national spotlight in the sting that some of these eliminations have had in the past few years. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely like you keep looking for him to come through and break this narrative, and he just hasn't done it.
And I think your point to being able to essentially at this point that you're running it back, like you would imagine they'll be back in the playoffs. They'll be doing it again. The goal is to be healthy, which will be the narrative with the Clippers yet again is health. But to your point, most of the teams under contract, I think Harden and Batum have opt-in years on the final contract, which everything Harden said makes it sound like he probably will. Yeah. So you imagine they'll be right back. But like, I guess my question to that is, to what extent? Because do we think this team next year, with all the changes that might go around, with the Rockets maybe getting better, with the Pistons maybe getting better, or even if we just want to stay in the West, the Thunder getting another year under their belt, the Nuggets maybe revamping a little bit, Lakers maybe too. Like, do we think the Clippers what we saw this year is running it back is going to be good enough to get past the first round of the playoffs next year based off matchup, maybe. But I would say even then I put the ceiling at the conference semifinals. Like I can't argue. There's a lot of potential changes that could be coming down the line. And I'm interested to see what happens with the Thunder Nugget series. I think that'll be really telling and how much of a knee-jerk reaction that will happen with the Thunder if they were to lose. Because I think maybe some things happen, and we've already talked jokingly about Kevin Durant. But that's my point, is like Clippers sit at the 5th seed, and if they run it back next year, they were healthy this year. You know, they were healthy in the playoffs. Their main guys were healthy in the playoffs. Yeah. And you took Denver to 7. Great. But do you think you're going to have a better potential matchup next year? Cool. That gets you to the conference semifinals. Then you're maybe up against the Clippers, Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Rockets.
I think they're there. If you take the positive glass in me says they're kind of there, because I also look around and I say Kawhi didn't play most of the regular season. Like when they had Kawhi, they were one of the best teams in the NBA to finish the regular season. I think they were top 3 post All-Star break. Like I agree. It's tough because of the Western Conference. Like you're right. That road, the wide open path is not necessarily there. Mm-hmm. But I also think they can kind of take it to anybody. Like Denver right now looks like the best team in the NBA. Are we I know they lost in 7, but I do think there's a path to the conference finals for this Clippers team if they're all playing together and they're healthy for the entire year based on better seeding. A lot can change, but I look around even with the teams that are left, I would have taken this Clippers team over the Warriors or the Timberwolves going in if they were on the other side of the bracket. I think if anything, it just speaks to more of the bracket that they're on right now, where it's do I know that I would have taken them against OKC? No, I wouldn't have. Against Denver, I had them in 7. So again, a little bit of a loss there. But if they were on the other side of the bracket, I'd have felt great about this Timberwolves, or about not the Timberwolves team, excuse me, this Clippers team being in the conference finals potentially. Yeah,
I would be interested to run that to see what it looks like. But again, do you risk injury in the regular season? Because again, that's the conversation with the Clippers every time. Do you risk to make sure you stay a 5th, 6th, 4th, whatever it ends up being seed, maybe even just trying to stay at a play-in tournament? Do you risk injury to Kawhi, to Harden? Because if that happens towards the back half of the season, then what are we doing? Also, where you're one injury away from scrapping the season. And then I don't know what you do in terms of trade and stuff, especially if Harden and them would kind of be towards the back end of their last season. Teams may just be like, well, we'll wait it out and see what happens. But that could get, I don't know. I understand running it back because that's definitely the best option. I just feel like it's not a win the finals option. And that's the part that makes me a little nervous about it with a team that's that old and potentially injury risk involved.
No, I mean, that's fair. I do think running it back is the best option. Yeah. I don't think they have a better one just because you're right. I don't think blowing it up would yield you the full start over to make it worth it.
It'd be interesting to, and I don't know how you'd have to but maybe they get themselves involved in a star player conversation. Could they find a way to get a Ja Morant on the team, or could they find a way to go get a Giannis or something? I don't know. They would definitely be an interesting play. I mean, they've shown that if you can get a star that's healthy, they can have a team around you that's going to get wins when you need a break. So that could be enticing.
I want to trade Ja Morant there so bad, but then they're still worrying about injuries. It's oh my God, that's kind of why. Break.
That's kind of why I leaned that way. It's you might as well just keep all the injury guys on the same team. Injury.
God, it would work so well, though. There's no doubt about it. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Justin Cousart.
I need a hoop session in Boston today. Eye emoji.
Well, is it somebody that's still playing? Is it Tatum? Does he need to hit an open gym? I was like,
I don't think he's still playing. I'm almost positive he's not. Although it's no, definitely not playing. No, this is his all-star picture. The all-star picture on his Twitter is him for the East, and Kobe's right behind him in the West.
So it's Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, look, Boston is home among other places, but
by the way, I don't know if we're gonna have time for Ballin' and Fallin', so I might just shoot my shot now and bring up the Paul Pierce thing, which is objectively hilarious.
Dude, Paul Pierce walking 15 miles to the studio after the Knicks lose game 2. I mean, good for Paul for actually doing it, but
and then getting wheelchaired into the on-air broadcast.
That's cinema. I'm not gonna lie. That's really well done by Paul Pierce. I love that.
I was like, good for you, man. Although he said he was gonna do it in bare feet. Those pictures show he's got shoes on, so I got some beef.
Shoes on. No, he should 100% have shoes on. Look, I get it, but like, put some shoes on, Paul. It's all right. You walked the 15 miles. You're good in everybody's book. That was incredible.
I did yesterday. My wife has me in fat camp, so we were walking the neighborhood. We were walking the neighborhood with Quinn, and I was walking barefoot, and dude, I stepped on a bee, and that sucked so much.
Yeah, why are you walking barefoot, my brother in Christ? It's Florida.
Exactly. You know the whole beach thing, man. You got to get the bottom of your feet hardened up for summertime. Like, you can't be walking. You can't be walking. Dude, that sand is like an oven. If your feet are not ready.
That's why I wear flops. I don't try to pull up the shoey thing. My feet are 95. It's 105 degrees on the sand. Why am I walking barefoot?
If you can slow, like right now, right? Like when I was walking yesterday, it was probably like 89 out, right? If I can get my feet burning at 89, by the time it's 99, my feet's ready for it. We're stepping on that sand. We ain't feeling nothing. All the nerves on the bottom of the feet are burned off.
You burn off,
good. Right? We're good. We don't feel nothing. I say that as, I don't know if you heard it, but that was the loudest thing of thunder I have ever heard. That might have hit the building. That was so loud.
Well, you're still on the air, so it's good. Okay. I'm glad you didn't get fried through it.
Yeah, that was wildly loud.
Yeah, it's crazy. Beautiful sunny day up here in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. Read them on the podcast. Justin did say too, this is going to be a bit of an abbreviated episode. We're not going to do who's balling, who's falling. Yeah, we got some time. Our time is a little limited, so we're gonna run through the second round. Obviously, we're halfway through the second round. So we're gonna hit all the series there, but we'll save who's balling and who's falling and grid and all that for next week. But yeah, leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the show. If you're not an Apple user, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we are on YouTube, Drive a Dish NBA on YouTube. Got video versions of the podcast. You can check us out there. And subscribe. You'll get notifications when the videos are coming out.
Now a word from our sponsors.
I feel like the last few weeks, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but we started out in the West, so maybe we start out in the East.
100%. I was going to say the same thing.
And let's be real, those are the better series right now. I'm kidding. I
mean, they kind of.
It might be.
They might be.
The problem is, and shout out to the Pacers for just playing bully ball last game when they were definitely going to lose. They just put in their guys to start fouling. I love that. So I guess, let's start with the top, right? Cavs, Pacers, Indy leads 2-1. Definitely came out hot, which I think we might have alluded to potentially happening in the last episode. I know we definitely said the Cavs were going to win, but I did have concern for the Thunder and for the Cavs for having that long break, because I don't have the numbers to back it up, but at least the years of watching NBA, when you have that series end so fast and the other one is either a little bit longer or a little closer and the team has to stay more locked in, it just seems like the momentum is always on the team that had to play a little bit longer, at least for that first game. That doesn't justify game 2 or anything like that. But at least the first game when the Knicks won and the Pacers won off the rip, I was like, yeah, I kind of could, I could see why that happened. Then we had game 2 and it happened again. And we'll talk about both, but that's when I started going, ooh, like, hold on. Because really, I mean, if you let that go 3-0 on the Cavs side of things, and for the Celtics who play today at 3:30, like, you let that go 3-0. We're talking, what's wrong with that? Yeah.
It's over at 3-0. Like, you can come back, but it's over at 3-0. And that's why it was so essential for Cleveland to win last night. And they did win that last night. And obviously not a tall task. It's in Indy. Like, that's the thing, is you blow both of these games at home, and same deal with Boston, is it's like you're going into a pretty rabid arena. Now, You're right, because it's a tale of two games. Like, I think that layoff definitely with the Cavs, that the Pacers win in game one. You're right. That didn't necessarily surprise me. The Pacers, I've been beating the drum, are a much better team than people have given them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, game two, though, listen. Game two, I think the only reason I'm not going nuclear on this Cavs core today and demanding, by the way, shout out to Kenny Atkinson for winning Coach of the Year. They would have, like, it's because of the injuries. Like, you didn't have Garland in game two. You didn't have Hunter in game two. And so it just felt like later in the game, it was a lot of like, hey, here's Donovan Mitchell. Let's just have him will us to victory. The Pacers are good enough where they're going to take advantage of that. Now, the problem with that, if you're Cleveland, is it's like, hey, you melted down still. Like, in spite of all those injuries, you had that game controlled. You were up by 20 points at one point, and you found a way to lose last minute. I mean, again, shout out to Hallie coming through huge in the clutch there. Big shot to win that game.
Yeah.
And so at that point, like, yeah, that's a little more alarming when you go in 2-0. Now, like, again, like we said, this game 3 is a must win, and the Cavs came back and they did it. And they had all those guys we mentioned back in the lineup. Now, Garland was pretty inefficient, I will say, but still having him back in the lineup and long term, I think can give this series a run. And look, like, we've seen the 3-1 comebacks, but you're right. Like, this is a tall ask for Cleveland. Like, Cleveland has to, in my eyes, win this game 4. And then I think you feel pretty good. Like, you win this game 4, you've essentially reset the series. It's a best of 3, which is still like a smaller margin than you like, but you've got 2 out of potentially 3 in Cleveland. And I will say at that point, like, you're right. If you flip it, winning both those games in Indy, like, I do think that takes the momentum out of the Pacers' sails a little bit as well.
Donovan had that amazing, it was a layup, but that amazing adjustment. I thought he was going to dunk it. And I think it was Turner that was there, and he kind of had like the pivot midair to get it in. That was a phenomenal shot. I know I've seen that all over ESPN today. The other thing that I thought was interesting is they moved to zone in game 3 a little bit. And that definitely threw off the Pacers, which I thought was
really
fun.
Worked. Yeah.
It's always interesting seeing when that for some reason why that throws off teams. I guess they get so used to man-on-man or whatever. But yeah, the zone seems to work. I'm interested to see if that can continue, or if the Pacers can find a way to respond to zone. How are they going to do that? Is it more pick and roll, or what are they going to try to do to free them up? Because Pacers, I mean, for lack and I guess a bad potential pun, like, they're going to have to set the pace with that. They got to get ahead of the zone at that point.
Well, we talked about at the beginning when we previewed this series a little bit last week that it was going to be like, the question was going to be, what do you do with Halliburton? Like, how do you guard him necessarily? Do you have a wing guard him, or do you really just kind of take the defensive mismatch? I think the zone may have, I mean, look, instant results. Like, he had 4 points and 5 assists in game 3. Like, that, another reason that this had to be a win for the Cavs when Hallie is struggling that bad. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe the zone got him off a little bit. Like, certainly the results are there. And like, look, Rick Carlisle and crew are going to have to make adjustments. Like, they're not going to get surprised by that zone this time around. Like, sometimes I do. I just think, like, you give them a different look and it just flusters you a little bit. Like, these are high level defensive players. Like, you do have to, it does take time to adjust and figure out how to break this zone. And so I certainly expect to see more of it from the Cavs in game 4. I do expect the Pacers to have a little bit more of a counter to it, though, this time around as well.
Another observation is the Cavs rebounding in the 3 games. They're almost like 8-ish more rebounds per game, and I think that leads to, a shout out to Jarrett Allen, who is kind of the unsung hero at times. Although he's definitely getting his praise in Cleveland, but averaging 15 points in the postseason, but they don't run any plays for him, and obviously rebounding and giving that advantage to the Cavaliers. So a big plus for them, and I think he definitely deserves a shout out as a player who may not get the recognition as much with the Cavs playing so well.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, that one.
The Cavs 3-point percentage also being at 27% is pretty wild compared to the Pacers, who is at 41 in those 3 games. So, you turn that around a little bit, and you're rolling, and that almost leads me into the Celtics game. Mainly because they also had 3-point issues, specifically in game 1, where they missed like a record amount of threes.
45 3-pointers, I think.
And I almost took it as like the Celtics could almost hang their hat on it, which sounds weird to say, but it's like we went to overtime and barely lost. And we shot like I don't even know what I'm seeing if I can pull up the percentage real quick to see what they shot from three in that game. Boston was 25% from three. They were 15 for 60. We shot 15 for 60, 25%. We're not going to do that again. And in that case, we only lost by, we lost 108 to 105. So if I'm the Celtics in that first game, I'm like, look, that sucks. We were getting the rust off because we had a break. We missed a lot of threes. Let's rebound. And you didn't. So then we could talk game two. But to that, it's still also you lost by 1 point. Weirdly enough, a lot of weird, like, quick defensive stops and Josh Hart and all that stuff. So, like, good for them from the Knicks side for really, I think, and I was thinking about this. This is my ADD brain, and I apologize. I think the Knicks played to their opponent. Because we watched them last series and we went, oh boy, this is not going to be good. And then they come to the Celtics and they freaking lock down and show the defense that we've been apparently sleeping on. And I'm like, do they just play to their opponent a little bit?
I guess, except they got crushed by all their good opponents in the regular season. And that's why I was so bullish on them. Like, I mean, God, my discussion of this series last week is aged like milk already with the Knicks up 2-0. You're right, though, about game one. Like, that was kind of my takeaway as well. Is I'm like, hey, the Celtics missed a record number of three-pointers and they barely lost that game. And I said, all right, because they were good looks. It wasn't like they were just jacking three-pointers. Like, I felt like they had a pretty good set of shots there. They just didn't fall. Then game two happens. You have a 20-point lead again, and you blow it at home. And, like, obviously give the Knicks credit defensively down the stretch. OG was phenomenal. Bridges was phenomenal. Bridges, obviously, especially on the last play of the game, stopping Tatum like that the way they did. I would have liked to see Tatum be a little more, just go up for the layup. Like, that's kind of my thing is like Tatum just stopped looking to attack. It's like, if you're not going to take the three, attack the rim.
The Tatum hate is really hot right now. On the internet, on Reddit and stuff, where they're like, you talk about the top five and you never mention Tatum and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, he's definitely one of the best players in the NBA. I don't know why.
That's why it's frustrating. That's why I want him attacking the rim.
Well, and I think that's where those comments come from, right? Like, that's where it almost takes me back a little bit. And I know people are going to hate me saying this, but it takes me back to that first year ish, not rookie year, maybe the next one with Ben Simmons, where it's like, we know you got this. You can do this. Go up with the shot.
Ben, though.
I know, but it feels like that same conversation where, like, you expect something that he's not doing. And so that's the part that's weird. But yes, no, I do not say that in a way to try to bring Tatum and Simmons into a same conversation. I just feel like there were times where we're like, why wouldn't you go up with that? And there are times where Tatum does that too.
Tatum is frustrating me, as Tatum is unquestionably one of the best players in the NBA. And it's weird because he's won. Like, now with the title too, it's like, look, they've been good every year since he's gotten there. Like, he's the biggest reason for it. But it's like he has these weird moments, like on the big stage, where it's like he'll give you a game where he just closes it out with 36 points and then just does something completely inexplicable and gets frozen out of himself, like in these last minutes. And so, look, it is a little alarming to see the Celtics just not adjust to when their three-pointers aren't falling and, like, not trying to run anything else. Like, I know Porzingis is sick, but
that's what they did last year. Yeah.
That's not what they did last year, though. And that's the problem, is like they had a little more optionality last year. Like, this year they fully leaned into it, and that's fine. Like, it's worked to this point, but it's like, hey, you employ Porzingis and Al Horford, like, run something out of the post for a little bit. Again, I know Porzingis has been dealing with the injury, or the illness, I should say. So there's a little bit of that as well. Drew Holiday struggled big time this series as well. Like, that's the other thing to keep an eye on, is like Drew Holiday for the first time just looks old. Like, it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's like, keep an eye on that going forward. But, you're right, though. Like, the way these games have been close, this game 3 is a must win for Boston. Obviously, we know the Garden's going to be on 900. Like, there's blood in the water. Like, if you're the Knicks, you got to get out of these next two, and you win one, and you feel pretty good still about winning this series. I also, like, weirdly think, if I'm Boston still, I'm down 0-2. It's not the end of the world. Like, I still can see Boston winning these next two games and turning this series around. Like, but listen, man, the Knicks are giving a fight. Like, Brunson's been good in the clutch again, as we've seen much of the season. The defense has shown up late, and the fourth quarter, like, their fourth quarter offense, it hasn't been alarming the way it was against Detroit.
I get what you're saying. I think a little bit has been slept on the Knicks roster because it took me until this round for whatever reason to realize like, oh, they've got a lot of names. Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Bridges, OG, Josh Hart, like holy moly, that's a good starting whatever 5 players.
They spent a bunch of money.
Like,
it's just the only reason that we haven't been bullish, or that at least I haven't been more bullish on this Knicks team, is just because they lost to everybody good in the regular season. Like they're a very good basketball team. It's just a matter of do they have that next level. So far, they've locked it down when it's matter. I mean, look, you won 2 games on the road in Boston to start this series. Like you have to be impressed. You cannot like. I know these games are close, but to that token, they're finding ways late to win these games.
Well, yeah, and that's the side, right? The Celtics are going, these games are close. If we just make a few more threes, it's ours. The Knicks are going, this team's significantly better than us. We're keeping it close, and then when it comes into the crunch time, we're locking it down and winning this game. So, like, I think both the same thing, the same topic is the conversation in the locker room. It's just 2 completely different viewpoints of that conversation, which is kind of wild. So
Celtics have been good on the road this season specifically, so that'll be a thing to watch as well as we go into this game later today. Let's go out west. OKC and Denver. So Denver really gritty overtime winning game 3 last night. I mean, they dominated that overtime frame, outscored the Thunder 11-2.
And Jokic didn't play well, at least from the comments he was saying. So,
And so that's the story here is, right? Like, it kind of played a little bit like the Thunder or the Nuggets-Clippers series did. Like, the Nuggets go out and they win this really close game 1. Aaron Gordon, who you can't sing enough praises about these playoff run, goes out with a game winner, just phenomenal again. Oklahoma City comes back, just dominates game 2. I mean, just beats the hell out of Denver in game 2. But then here we go. Denver back on their home floor, not fazed by that blowout. And in a game when Jokic struggled, like you said, games 2 and 3, Jokic has been very mortal after a very immortal game 1. What do you have, 46 and 20? I think he dominated. And it didn't look like they had the personnel necessarily because, that's the thing that with the Clippers with Zubac, like they were one of the few teams who's equipped to like give Jokic a fight. Like, the Thunder have the personnel with Chet and with Hartenstein. Like they're not going to roll over, but it's like, you wouldn't think that would necessarily be the matchup you're looking for. Instead, it's more about, suffocating the supporting cast. And that's really the story right now to me in game 3 is it's like, look, Jokic was good, but he was like very average by his insane standards. But I look around and I go, hey, Michael Porter Jr. finally gives you the game you need him to and has 20 points. Jamal Murray, phenomenal again with 27. Aaron Gordon, phenomenal again, 21 points. Like, if those guys are giving you that, they are a contender. And they might be the best team in the league.
And you don't need 45 or whatever it is from Jokic. I mean, in that game, Jokic missed all 10 of his threes. He was 0% from 3-point percentage, and he attempted the most threes on the whole team. He was 8 for 25 field goal percentage, 32%. He had 16 rebounds and 6 assists. That's where he did his damage to you. He still dropped 20 points, but like that to Jokic is a bad game, and it is. I mean, 0 for 10 from 3 is wild.
Bad. It's bad.
But yeah, then you get 27, like you said, from Murray, 21 from Porter, 22 from Aaron Gordon, who, again, I think, man, he might be the one that's like fully being highlighted this playoffs.
It's phenomenal the entire time.
Yeah. And so like, that's a big part of it. And SGA also having a pretty, I guess, pedestrian game. He also was only 16% from 3 in that. I know some comments, at least on Reddit, were upset with him smiling on the way off the court. But I do say, like, it does feel like the Thunder have a way to at least try to compete with Jokic between Hartenstein and Holmgren, like just throwing a few different options at him. And I would also say Caruso's seeing a big uptick in minutes, and that trade's finally really, really, really showing itself. Not necessarily in the points or anything like that, but from the Caruso can be put on the other guards that are scoring. Last game's a bad example, but Caruso has been the one kind of taking that under his wing and letting the other guys kind of essentially focus on offense. And so Caruso's up to, at least in that game, he was playing almost 25 minutes in the game. So definitely a little defensive help. I'm interested to see how this one goes because I still think the Thunder can get it done. it's just not going to be a pretty series. I think it's going to be an ugly bloodbath between the two. And I think regardless of whoever loses, they're going to feel like they missed a chance to really like close the door at some point during the series. And maybe it is the next game. I'm trying to see when that one's scheduled for. It might be Sunday, I think. Sunday at 3:30. So if the Nuggets get it 3-1,
it's over.
I don't think the Thunder can get it back.
OKC is as great as they've been. I don't think you're 3-1 in this Denver team. And that's more about Denver than anything. OKC is great. I just think to me, the winner of this series is probably going to the finals. Like now, especially with Steph's injury and the worries about that. And it feels like these two teams are equipped and ready.
And with that comment, it kind of gets us into the Warriors Thunder a little bit because, I think they said, I had it written down. I think Steph's potentially going to miss game 3.
No, he's out for 3. He's out for 3 confirmed. He didn't play in 2. It seems like he's going to miss 3 because they said he was going to miss a week with this hamstring strain.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is so if you're the Wolves, you got to take advantage and at least get one out of it. But
yeah. I mean, the Warriors won. The Warriors winning game 1 because he went out pretty early in the second quarter. So the Warriors holding on to win that ugly slugfest was huge. And I mean, again, for the Wolves, likewise, to get back in and even this series up. But you're right. Like you feel great if you're the Wolves, right? Like if you're the Wolves, you have to win this series with Steph Curry limit. Because the thing with we know how hamstring injuries are is even when he comes back,
don't go away. Yeah,
it's really unfortunate. Honestly.
And I know, Ant had the leg tweak but came back, and I know they've joked about it. They're like, I don't know what he did back there, but he always gets hurt. He goes in the locker room and he comes back. It's like, hey, be careful.
This kind of different though. Like the way it's just again to rule him out that quick. And I mean, look, the Warriors. You talk about game 3 or game 7, I should say, last series. Buddy Hield being the hero and really breaking out. Like he's been phenomenal in the first game of that series as well. Like Pods has been great. Like you've gotten what they've needed, but I don't know, Minnesota at the same time, really locked in defensively. I thought Alexander Walker in particular was huge for them in game 2, him playing good perimeter defense with Jaden McDaniels, who also had a great game. I mean, I had the Warriors winning this series. I thought it was going to be pretty close. Obviously that radically flips with Steph being hurt. I do think Minnesota's in the driver's seat now. I expect to see them win game 3. We'll see if Steph comes back. It's just, and maybe he's the superhero player who is able to do that, but it's just, we know that the way that these have lingered, maybe in the later rounds he'd be fine, but I think if this were the regular season, this would potentially be like a 2 to 3 week type injury. And I know you don't have that urgency there. It would be huge for Golden State to steal one in the Bay just to buy some time. Like at this point, it's about just keeping up. Like that's why winning that game 1 was so crucial. Mm-hmm. Just buy time for Steph to get healthier, because you feel like, again, with Steph and Jimmy, the way you played the latter half of the season, you got to feel like you can contend with anyone. I mean, that's obviously, it's huge to watch and how they adjust here. Can Jimmy now, we talk about when Jimmy was out, Steph had that superhero game against Houston. Could Jimmy pull one of those out against Minnesota? That's going to be the question. You mentioned SGA. I don't want to jump off that real quick. I do. I want to see a much better game from SGA in game 4. Like he was pretty disappointing in game 3. He settled a lot, and that's why I didn't and give the Nuggets credit. They did a good job at closing down his lanes. Like he wasn't able to attack the rack as well as he usually does, but they got him to settle a lot for kind of some uglier jumpers. He was really inefficient from the field. So, got a big game out of them in game 2. I really want to see what he's got in game 3, because as much as Jokic struggled, SGA, MVP, these are the 2 MVP candidates going at it. He struggled as well here, and you want to see him kind of, take over and close out those games. Either way, excited to keep an eye on the second round. This has been a lot of fun so far. I'm glad we have some intrigue. Like I said, with the Eastern Conference, it felt like we were just marching towards Cavs and Celtics. Even no matter how these play out, I still think there are very high chances that the Cavs and Celtics win their respective series. But we got some intrigue. This has been it's been a fun second round so far. But thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
I'll end it with a quote that I saw from Brian Windhorst. The Celtics payroll next year is $500 million. there's a possibility this team does not come back. Come on, Knicks, break up the Celtics.
Oh my God, that's what I mean. Like they think all these Knicks fans are like, "Wait, you're rooting for us?" And it's like, no, look, don't get the Sixers. Kinda. If you I put the Homer hat on, the Sixers brigade will always root for anybody that's not the Celtics first. That includes the Knicks very much. If it's the Knicks and the Celtics, I will root for the Knicks 1,000 times out of 1,000 times.
And not only that, because the Sixers fandom can put on their Villanova glasses and pretend they're Villanova again and be like, yeah, we're excited for this.
Yeah, now we might do in Minnesota too. Worst comes to worst, you fall back on Dante, right?
Dante, yeah, man, I'm telling you. So I love that commercial, by the way. I don't know if you saw that where they did the Nova thing.
They're going to kill it so fast. It's great, but they're doing it. It's already the new. Do you remember last playoffs that I get PTSD even bringing this up? Do you remember the Wingstop no flex zone commercial?
Yes,
dude. I get triggered every time I hear it now because they played it so much. I get a feeling that's what's happening with the Nova commercial. I hope it doesn't happen like that.
They gotta do one with the Pope, and they gotta get the Pope involved in the next commercial.
I'm sure the Pope will definitely be down for that. Get him on board.
That'd be hilarious, though. But yes, follow us on Drive and Dish on YouTube. There's video version of the podcast. A lot of times we do Immaculate Grid. We ran out of time today, but that's a little visual, so you can subscribe there and you'll get notified when new episodes are coming out.